Calling all technology coaches. Join Fort Edge this summer for a 2-day coaches camp packed with high-quality professional development exclusively for you. Attendees will work with like-minded coaches on creating strategies for teacher relationships, executing coaching cycles, and building a culture of coaching and tech integration within their school or district. There are 2 opportunities to attend Coaches Camp this summer. Join us either June 25 and 26 in New Orleans prior to ISTE 2022 or in Cincinnati on July 28 and 29. Please visit fort-edge.net/coachcamp to reserve your spot today.
Aloha, I'm Katie Ritter.
And I'm Justin Thomas, and this is the Restart Recharge podcast, a podcast by coaches for coaches. We bring the tips and tricks to help you in your everyday work as an instructional technology coach or whatever they call you in your school district.
So hopefully you're going to leave this episode with us today feeling just a little bit less on your own coaching island.
Just a reminder, you heard that information on Coaches Camp at the beginning of this episode, so please be sure to reserve your spot at the EdTech Campfire today using that promo code RRPodcast in all caps. Well, we have a really good episode here today because often we know where we want to end up, but we also know that despite whether it's trying to lose weight or learn a new language or paying off our debt, sometimes things go a little awry, right? As time goes on, we find ourselves engaging in the same routines with little progress, so that ambitious someday we'll get there goal starts to kind of go off the rails. So the same is true with coaching, whether it's integrating technology effectively, mastering a new literacy program, or building a culture of innovation. We often start with the best of intentions and start to slip off the wagon sometime between that second and third quarter. So this episode explores a few strategic ways that instructional coaches can use targeted goal setting to crush their personal coaching goals and the larger goals of the school or district they support. We have Tyler Irwin and Tracy Keough, and I'll introduce Tyler Irwin here. So you've heard Tyler before. He is the Assistant Director of Curriculum and Instruction and currently supports a couple school districts here in the greater Cincinnati area. You last heard him on the first episode of our mini-series on the coach and administrator relationship. If you didn't notice, that episode was for some reason flagged as explicit, oddly enough, but we aren't really sure why, because obviously there wasn't anything explicit in there, but we'll try to make sure Tyler stays a little PG on this episode here. So welcome in, Tyler.
Yeah, I'll definitely try my best, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we took a big risk inviting you back on the pod here, Tyler.
I really appreciate you guys having me back.
And I have the pleasure of reintroducing you to Tracy Keough. She was a classroom teacher for 11 years in second grade and a 5th through 8th grade setting before taking on the role of an instructional design coach with us here at Forward Edge for the past 2 years. Focusing on helping teachers use technology in the classroom. Currently, she is a coach in a more rural school district in Ohio. And so as a coach, Tracy has worked with educators to help them achieve their classroom and educational goals through coaching and mentorship. As a coach constantly on the go with 4 extremely active kiddos, she listens to Restart Recharge to fill her time. So thanks for being a loyal listener and guest, Tracy.
Thanks. I'm excited to be back and talk about how we can set some goals for everybody.
Okay, so welcome back, Tyler and Tracy. We're super excited to have you. We're going to dig in to some goal setting. So thinking about your own goals that you have as a coach, we're kind of wrapping up the end of the school year. So I know like on our team, summer is often when we start to think about setting our own kind of personal goals coming up. So that's right around the corner, I know for sure for us. But thinking about your goals kind of as we've wrapped up this school year, heading in to the summer to think about setting those goals, what strategies do you put in place or you know, kind of how do you decide what goals do you even want to set? Where do you start with those goals that you set for yourself? And how do you kind of lay that groundwork for the goals that you're setting for yourself as a coach?
Yeah, I'll start off with that one. I feel like thankfully now I have a couple of years of coaching under my belt. So I've probably changed in the way that I treat the end of the school year and how I set my goals and how I kind of prioritize, you know, the must-haves and sort of maybe the wants for end of school year and end of summer. But I feel like the big things that I've learned is you want to prioritize communication and collaboration with the administration and then your other important stakeholders. So if your district has technology leads or instructional leaders, you know, you want to make sure that you form some goals around meeting with those folks just to make sure you're all on the same page going into summer. And then I feel like one of the big responsibilities we have as technology coaches, instructional design coaches, is just making sure that like they're ready for the end of the school year. They're ready to close out for summer. They feel confident in, not only closing down shop and their LMS, but making sure that they have everything ready for next year as well. So for me, I wrote down a couple of different things that I most definitely prioritize. We already mentioned communication and meeting with the administrators. So I normally like to do that twice. That's one of the things I've found that's been really beneficial. I used to only maybe meet with them once, but now I do it twice. One, to review the progress that we've had in this previous school year, in this current school year that's coming to a close. And then also one to look forward to next year. And so that could be to talk about all sorts of stuff, whether it's new initiatives that are coming down the pipe or possibly even like changes that I want to make to the coaching program, but setting us up for success because, hey, over the summer, people are hard to get a hold of and you want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row before you leave. The other thing that I have started to do as well when it comes to like strategies or things that I prioritize this time of year is I want to evaluate my own program. And so at Forward Edge, we have this really awesome coaching program evaluation that we do that gives us a lot of tangible data we can look at. I feel like that's helped me out so much. I've looked at some of the teacher comments and some of the teacher feedback, and it has caused me to make direct changes to how I structure PD or how I allocate my time in the buildings, or even like what we focus on in some of the trainings or some of the coaching that I do with them. And I feel like without that data and without like allocating the time right now, end of school year, to make those changes, then maybe next year just wouldn't be as successful. So those are some of the big things that I've found that have really helped me and some of the goals that I have right now to make sure not only myself, but everybody that I work with feels good going into summer.
Awesome. Tracy, what about you?
Pretty much everything Tyler said is things that I'm looking at with the district that I'm currently in. This is the first year we've been in the district, so it's a lot of communication with admin as far as like how the year went, what expectations they have moving into the next year, and what they have a PD day, the second to last day of the official school year for teachers. So we have a lot of conversations of what those days are going to look like, how we can best set the goals of those sessions to be sessions that are looking towards the following year, and maybe some reflection on the current year instead of hammering out a PD session that they're not going to get to apply in the near future. So a lot of conversations around that. And then, like Tyler said, looking and reflecting back on myself as a coach over the year and coming up with some things that I would like to either do differently, keep, change, or throw away moving into the following year as a coach in the district. So
yeah, a quick follow-up for both of you. Thinking about so all of that is, everything you said is wonderful and definitely has huge impact on the districts you serve. But when you think about like yourself, personal goals that you set for yourself for your own growth as a coach, how do you kind of think like, okay, what's next for me? Is there any kind of like strategy there, or how do you go about that?
So I know for myself, for some of those goals, especially like between school years or moving into the following school year, I look at what is the district goal, or how can I best support my teachers, and what areas do I need to learn more in? So I know engagement has been a big part of some of the conversations I've had with teachers this year. And so I'm looking into resources or books that I can then come to the table with fresher ideas than, hey, let's jump on this gaming activity. Let's use Kahoot. Let's use Google Slides in a different way and really bring something different to that session moving into next year. So I'm looking at those pieces that have been asked a lot of by the teachers to me, and then how I can grow and bring fresh material back next year.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty similar to what I was going to say. I just look for like personal blind spots, where I felt like throughout the year when I've been asked a question or presented with, maybe a topic for PD or a training request, wherever I maybe felt uncomfortable, wherever I had to seek out help from my colleagues. And like, why did I have to do that? Was it because like I was just maybe out of ideas on that day, or was it because like I really didn't know where to start? And so if you think about where some of those blind spots are in your own coaching practice, I think that can help you with like a self-improvement plan to set some small goals, to look out for some ways to sharpen your own skills over the summer, PD opportunities for yourself, whatever it might be. And then I think it's really important too, when it comes to like setting your own goals, is to look out for like upcoming trends and patterns. Because like Tracy mentioned, education's always changing. There's always new opportunities that you can bring to your district, new digital tools that may support the work that's going on there. And so along with like looking for your blind spots, you also want to look out for the new stuff that can bring value to the district that you serve. And then of course you got to learn about it and add that to your tool belt as well. So those would be kind of the two areas I look at when I'm looking to set my own, self-improvement goals over the summer.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah, both of those are really great. And you kind of both talked a little bit about it, but let's talk about your experience with goal setting. So in working with teachers, how have your strategies evolved as you've progressed in your coaching career? And do you usually look kind of at a long-term goal, or you add the short-term goals along to that? Or do you look at something more shorter and have that kind of evolve into something a little bit more long-term?
So I'll start with that one. I think it kind of works both ways depending on the teacher that you're working with. So sometimes you're going to focus just on those short-term goals that will eventually lead to a long-term outcome, whether the big picture is differentiation or student engagement, but you can't accomplish that in one quick goal setting piece. So
Sure.
It's going to be a lot more of those smaller goal setting pieces. But there are teachers that sit down and know exactly where they want to be at the end of the year, and that is their goal. And so you are helping as their coach throughout meetings and different coaching pieces, help them reach that goal by putting in smaller checkpoints along the way. So I think that question kind of depends on the situation, the teacher, the moment that you're working in when it comes to setting, whether it's a long-term or a short-term goal. I think personally for me as a coach, going back to kind of what we were talking about with like, how do you as a coach look for them, some of those, finding that long-term goal and then figuring out how you can break that goal down into those shorter goals. Because for some people like myself, long-term goals are really hard for me to achieve if I don't have set markers. So like quarter one, I'm going to accomplish these three things and make sure they're done, which will lead me to this quarter two goals that will so forth and so on. Then I can check things off the list because I like to know that I'm accomplishing something along the way than getting to the end of the year and being like, I think 80% of my kids made that. But if you can have little check marks along the way in each quarter, I think that helps too.
And there's something so satisfying about scribbling something off or erasing it or check mark or something like that. Like I've accomplished something.
Yeah, it does. It feels really good. I feel like very similar to Tracy, long-term goals can be tough as a coach. We're often put in a scenario where like our initial goal is just to get to know the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we get to know them, then you're right. We do have to vary our approach. I know for me early on in coaching, I always felt like I was kind of the one like really leading the goal setting, even though it wasn't my goal, it was for the teacher. But I didn't really know how to have those conversations. So I would lean a lot on maybe what the district initiative was. Maybe they're working on student engagement and maybe they just purchased a subscription to like a new digital tool. And so that was like a real nice crutch for me. Oh, well, what do you think about maybe working on student engagement with your students, like using this new tool the district just subscribed to, right? And that was an easy go-to for me, but I found that oftentimes that didn't really meet the teacher's needs. That really wasn't even something at times they were passionate about. And so there was some like fatal errors in that approach. And so I found that like now with a little bit more experience, I'm definitely keeping the goal setting very teacher centric. At times it may be like pulling teeth to kind of get them to come out of their shell and mention some things that they want to work on or they want to improve, or these wild hair ideas that they've always wanted to try, but they've never had time for. And then other times, like Tracy mentioned, you're going to have teachers who they're very self-directed. They know exactly what they want to do and when. And so the more you can kind of keep that part on their plate, I think that's just way better when it comes to goal setting with a teacher. And then personally, I think anytime you can set milestones for yourself, that's just going to keep you going and you motivated. It's going to keep you productive. And I found that it's kind of the same with teachers, even if they have a long-term goal. If you set up some milestones, it keeps your conversation with them productive. It keeps kind of your meetings with them, giving them a purpose. And your conversations kind of have like a rhyme and reason to them when you have those little checkpoints. So those are all definitely things that have helped me out a lot.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that, and I don't know if Tyler does this too, but after that first year of getting through coaching and really figuring out how to direct the conversation of goal setting with teachers, it becomes a lot more question asking as a coach. and trying really hard not to lead that conversation. So the constant questioning, you feel kind of like a toddler, like, well, why do you want to do that? And how are you going to do that? And just constantly getting them to really think through the process. So that's one of the things I know as more of a veteran coach now, going into my third, fourth year, like the questioning really is played out a lot more.
Yeah, so important. And even too, if you refer back to one of our previous episodes this season with Ben Songrath on how to kind of connect with some of those teachers, kind of plays into a little bit of their goal setting and how you can work with them moving forward. Do you have any antidotes about working with admin to help them kind of stay set on goals for either the administrator or even just district or building goals?
I think I don't know if like a specific anecdote. I mean, there's a lot of
Sure.
pretty similar experiences with admin where you just have to keep the communication like open and consistent. For them, they, as we said in all of these different episodes, if you've listened before, they have a million things on their plate. So the things that we can take charge of, that we can lead, continue to bring that to the table with them, continue to update them on progress. Hey, here's how this is going. Hey, this month I had, 12 people attend my lunch and learn. It's a little down from what we've had, in the past, but I'm looking to make this change to it so we can, increase engagement and participation with it. I just think that the more consistent you are with just even short little check-ins with them, walking down the hall with them, updating on them on how things are going that you're doing, that's just a huge value add to them because they feel confident that you're kind of in line with what the district's trying to accomplish, and you're giving them those little pointers that they need to just let them know that like you're doing your job, you're taking care of business. So I think that's like a real big thing for newer coaches. It's like, don't be afraid to just walk next to them in the halls, give them a short little update, shoot a quick little email out on a Friday afternoon, send them a text, hey, check out what this teacher's doing. That's just a great thing you can do to kind of keep them in the know with some of the goals that you've set for yourself and your teachers.
Anything to add on that, Tracy? You're kind of the same.
Definitely the same kind of structure and thought process there. The one thing I would say that seems to be helping conversations and goal setting with my admin is having data to back it up. Mm-hmm. So for certain things, if I'm able to do like a learning walk with a focus that they're really driving hard on, that's not evaluative and just gives us a clearer picture. I've noticed if my admin is very math-based and math-minded, giving them data to show them like, okay, this percentage of our teachers is really moving forward with this topic, or this group is struggling, without calling anybody out specifically, really helps them continue to move in that goal as well.
Well, I think I'll add on, I think everything you guys said, those are all really great points for coaches to think about. Something that I've done too from that admin, more of like the district perspective, setting a big goal. We're implementing a new LMS. We want, everyone doing this or using these tools or instruction to look like this. I think, Brene Brown, for all those Brene Brown fans out there, she has a saying that I really like, and she says to paint done, right? And like get people to paint what done or what finished looks like. So for us to, say that we've achieved our goal, what would that look like? And then really, you guys kind of touched on it for your own, or like working with teachers to help them set those checkpoints. I think you have to have those with admin from a district perspective too, right? So being able to work backward to understand, okay, if by the end of the school year, you want everyone doing this or it to look like this, then where do we have to be by, Tracy, to your point, those quarterly check-ins for us to check off, and then what supports have to be put in place for us to get there by those points. So for me, I always like to kind of paint done and then work backward from there to understand everything that has to be involved and where we have to be by certain points and what we have to do to get there.
Especially helps because you can actually really visualize what the end goal is going to be and then how you can take those steps to get there. Well, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we'll have more great content on how you can start to keep track of your goal setting. Looking for a program that reaches all teachers and learning new tools to integrate in their lessons? Edu Badges is the answer. Edu is an anytime, anywhere badging program that is designed to take bite-sized tools for instruction and teach teachers how to use them. Edu has received the ISTE Seal of Alignment for educator standards, and each badge in our expanding library is aligned to the ISTE standards and the SAMR model. Learn more about the program that teachers call addicting at forward-edge.net/edubadges. Instructional coaches support teachers, students, administrators, and really everyone in the district. In fact, research shows that instructional coaching is one of the most impactful forms of professional development that results in improved teacher instruction and student achievement. But who is supporting the coach? Forward Edge provides multiple year-long mentorship options recommended by the Google for Education Certified Coach Program to help you gain the valued support you need as an instructional coach. Visit forward-edge.net to start giving PD to the ultimate PD providers.
Welcome back to the Restart Recharge podcast. Thanks for sticking with us through that short little sponsor break. We've got Tyler Irwin and Tracy Keough here with us today, and we are talking about goal setting and things that you can do as a coach to keep your own personal goals and to help those educators and at the district level keep those goals on track and keep them moving forward. So guys, next thing we'd like to ask you is, once the goals have been set, you've got things moving in place, you've got all those checkpoints outlined, what are some of the things that you do to really help hold yourself accountable, or whoever it is that you're working with, whether it's the individual teacher in their coaching cycle or it's, this big district initiative. What are those things that you're doing to not only hold yourself and others accountable, but also to really track that progress? I know we've mentioned the checkpoints a couple of times, which are great, but if we could just dig in a little bit deeper, how do we keep those things moving in the day to day?
I would say the big change I have made this year in my coaching practice, which is why I was glad I got brought on this podcast in particular, is I've switched over almost any sort of content that I create, share, whether it's a professional development session, whether it's a screencast, some sort of cheat sheet. I try and use a tool that has some built-in analytics to it. And I feel like that's helped me out a lot, just to be, honest with myself and say, are people even looking at this? Are they utilizing it? Are they opening it when I send it to them in an email or post it to the LMS? And so that's one way that I do keep myself accountable. There's so many tools out there that do it now. I mean, Google Workspace has it built in. I'm thinking of Screencastify and the awesome analytics that are built into that. I use Smore for my newsletters and you get analytics on that. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. But you can kind of think about, if that's one of your goals, to have so many people come to Lunch and Learns or to get so many views on your newsletter that you send out every month. Well, in the past, maybe it was hard to track that and figure out if you were actually reaching those goals and meeting those metrics. And so if I can, I've just switched over to things that allow me to track that. So that would be one thing. I would say a second thing that's really helped is just being better about note taking. So if things are qualitative and it's hard to quantify, having those little anecdotes, the context that I can connect to a teacher, things that I'm noticing, changes over time, things that I can share with the administrators. So I kind of carry around this little moleskin notebook with me and just put the date at the top of every day I'm on site, and then just add little bullet points throughout the day. And then at times I'll then put that into Connect Hub, which is how we track all of our interactions with all of our teachers and administrators. So that's really helped me to just make more out of the interactions that I have with teachers. And now, instead of it just being like, oh, what did I talk with that teacher about last week or 2 weeks ago? I have a little bit more to go off of to continue that conversation and make it more impactful. And then I would say maybe if there's a third one when it comes to doing that, it's just like maybe before all of this is just making sure I have everything in place. So having a solid schedule, knowing where I'm going to be and when, knowing how to better prioritize and allocate my time. I think those things help me keep track and stay on top of the goals I've set as well, because there's less like wasted time throughout the day. Everyone knows where you are and when. And I think when everyone's on the same page, your coaching program can just kind of take it to the next level.
I would definitely second the note taking. I'm big on note taking, whether it is in my, 5-subject notebook I buy at the beginning of every school year and hold on to, or using Google Keep because I have the app on my phone. So even if it's a short conversation with a teacher in the hall, I can quickly jot down a note with the date. And I have notes set up in Google Keep for like all of my high school teacher interactions and different things like that. So if it's in the middle of just walking down the hall or stopped them in the library or whatever, I have those notes available. So that really helps me stay accountable for some of those goals, making sure I'm checking in with teachers or helping them meet their goals. The other one for me, which was more of a learning curve to get there, was utilizing Google Sheets. So it is not a tool that I'm excellent at, but I am learning more and more, which was one of my goals, was to just feel more confident utilizing that. So tracking my goals through Google Sheets, where I can then kind of put in a column that I want, quarter one, these are how the pieces that are going to meet my bigger goal. And then once I feel like I've met 100%, it'll change to green or conditional format. And so I have all 4 quarters broken down for each one of the goals that I want to in my Google Sheet, which again, being in Google Workspace, I can access it from any computer or I can access it from anywhere. So it helps keep me accountable. And then I have something to show teachers as well for those moments where they're questioning, well, I had to write the SMART goal for school, but I don't have any way of tracking to make sure until the end of the school year. So then I have some evidence there too.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're like using a goal to accomplish other goals and tracking your goals. That was like a weird, like we went meta
Very
there or
meta.
something. Yeah, exactly. Well, as you both very well know, it's personally my favorite part of the show. And we do at the end of every episode here, but it is time now for your top 3 tips. So Tyler and Tracy, what are your top 3 overall tips for setting goals or guiding others in goal setting? You can mix and
I'm going to let
match.
Tracy take the floor on this one. I'm going to let her go first.
I would say, and this one came out of work with our team, is we read a book about finding your why. And so that is one of my top tips for setting goals in the beginning, is to figure out why you want to do something. What is the purpose behind it? Because if you don't have a purpose or a buy-in in your goal, it's not going to matter. So making sure that you have purpose, have meaning, understand your why as the beginning of your goal. And then for me, a second tip, a top tip, is making sure that you have a place to track that goal. So whether it's a notebook, whether you are a bullet journal person and like to be able to color in that you've met so many things every month, you're using a digital tool, just find a way that you can support yourself to track your goals that is easy for you to constantly remember. Like, don't pick a tool that you're not constantly on or capable of using. And then I think my top tip number 3, whether it's for yourself or others, is find somebody that can hold you accountable. That it may not have to be your coach, but find somebody that can hold you accountable for that goal too. So those accountability talks every week or posts or whatever you need to do with a partner to make sure that you're actually meeting your goal is very helpful too.
Love that. I always do better when I have a buddy to hold my feet to the
Buddies are
fire.
always
Oh, yeah.
Those were awesome tips, Tracy. I was a little worried you might steal some of mine, but I think ours are different enough. So,
Well, Tyler, I'm super impressed. No one ever wants to go second in top tips
I know,
because they
right?
don't want their tips stolen.
Right. I figured, you know what? Let's let Tracy go. I've got a few that I think will just kind of enhance the ones that she already said. So
None of them
my
are
first
explicit,
one-
right? None of them are explicit. We're good.
No.
Okay,
no,
good.
no explicit stuff. I promise. I'm staying more PG in this
All right.
episode.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
My first one is aim small, miss small. So if you're a fan of The Patriot, Mel Gibson's kind of a weirdo, but he makes good movies. But what that really means is just like be targeted, be specific. So with your goals, whether they're with teachers or goals that you set for yourself, like be specific. Don't say I want to have a successful lunch and learn program. Like, how many people do you want to have attend? How many people do you want to have come regularly? If you're going to do a monthly newsletter or send out monthly like tech tip videos, how many views do you want? I think the more specific you can be, the better. Keeps us also very like in the data and having things to back up and reinforce the value of our program. So that would be my first one. My second
Tyler,
one
I
is
don't
similar
want to
some-
interrupt you. I just want to say I'm so glad that you brought that up because I feel like that's where a lot of goals go off the rails to actually like measure. And when you look back, it's just, it can be very ambiguous if you just have this kind of pie in the sky moonshot that you put out there. Like, how are you actually gonna make sure that you're getting there? So I think that from the get-go, really making sure that it's specific, that you actually know how you're going to say yes or no, I met this goal. So anyway, thanks for saying that. I think that's awesome.
Will you repeat your quote one more time?
Aim small, miss small. Yeah. The next one, I think Tracy kind of talked about this a little bit, but I think it's important to, whenever you're setting goals, to invest time in understanding your environment. What good is a goal if it's like completely out of context. What good is a goal if it doesn't align to what the district's trying to accomplish or what the teacher is trying to accomplish? Or, what good is the goal if it's really not adding any value to you in your own practice in the role? So the better you can get to know your environment, I think the better and more purposeful your goals will be. So that may mean, like, at the beginning, maybe if you're a new coach, like, you don't go right in with some of these pie in the sky goals. You learn what your district or what your school is like. And then you have like better material and better knowledge to go off of to then set some goals for yourself in the future months. So that would be my second one. My third one is see it through. And so we say this all the time with goals, but like, see it through to the end. I can tell you just a quick little anecdote. In one of my first years, I kind of stopped lunch and learns during the time of COVID just because people weren't attending. But that was one of my goals. Like, that was one of my initiatives for the year, was to do lunch and learns. And I kind of learned, like, over the years, like, yes, not as many people were coming, but when I stopped doing them for a time, people missed them. People were wondering, like, did you do your lunch and learn this month? I don't think I saw it on the calendar. And so just see it through. If you set a goal, it may not have the success that you thought it would. It may not quite go as you had planned, but I think if you set a goal, it's always best if you do your best to see it through to the very end. So those would be my top three.
Well, and you just gave everybody another tip, like take it away from them and then they'll want it again.
And they'll want it, yeah.
So if you're struggling with something out there, coaches, just take it away. Make it exclusive.
Yeah, provide that scarcity so they think it's like a hot commodity. I love it.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's actually really brilliant. Yeah. So, take it away, add it back, whatever. Anyway, so obviously these are really good tips from all three of you here, because you jumped in too, Katie. That's why I added you here as a third option too. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So any final conclusions here that you want to kind of end with, or are you good with kind of what you said with your top three tips?
I think our tips say it all, Justin. I'm going to leave my cards on the table.
Perfect. Tracy, you good too?
I'm good.
All right, good. I wanted to make sure. Perfect. So as we wrap this episode up, I want you to tune in next time. We have a fun one, a creative one. We have John Smith and from Book Creator. So he's going to be talking to us a little bit about some ideas that you can approach your teachers with for Book Creator. Lisa Kuhn is also on that one as well. And Book Creator also a sponsor for hashtag FECamp22. So make sure you reserve your spot today with that RR podcast promo code.
So be sure to subscribe to Restart Recharge wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at RRCoachCast. And I think, Justin, tell the people what they want to hear.
We are now on TikTok, so you can get to see the awesome content that we put out on TikTok. So that's also our CoachCast too.
Okay, thank you. And if you're like me, you're going to spell it like tic-tac-toe, I think, for the rest of your life.
Get on that tic-tac.
Stay tuned to see, I don't know, me and Justin dancing. What are we going to do on the TikTok, Justin?
We could do some dances, I suppose. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out what kind of amazing content are out there, but you're going to be very well entertained.
So content TBD, but entertainment guaranteed. Awesome.
Also, make sure if you want to know any idea, or if you give us ideas for the podcast or apparently for our content on social media as well, feel free to reach out to us and connect there.
So press the restart button.
Recharge your coaching batteries and leave feeling equipped and inspired to coach fearlessly with the Restart Recharge podcast.
A Tech Coach Collective. Is it a RR CoachCast episode if I don't go, are we recording?
It is not. No, it's like the trademark now. Tyler, you always do great.
Oh, how encouraging.
Thanks, Justin. You're welcome.